and welcome to my studio. You can kind of see that my studio is a converted room. I have commandeered it, it's a bedroom, and I have my watercolor set up here as well as my office just in another section of this room. Obviously, if you have a dedicated watercolor studio, I am so very jealous of you, but I am very happy with what I've got. I can actually come in here, my watercolor paints are already set up, and I can just start going. If you don't have that kind of thing and you're just using the kitchen table, that's great as well, as long as you're getting out there and playing around and enjoying what you do. So for those of you out there who don't know who I am, my name is Leanne Halls, and I have been a professional artist since 2008, I think it was, but it could be a little bit later. So that's about, I don't know, 15 years. Wow, that's a long time, but boy, it has been an exciting journey, and I absolutely love what I do. I love being able to get into my studio on a daily basis and paint and explore and just play around with things. I did have a friend the other day say to me, you know, you must love just getting up in the morning and being able to paint and just do what you must have an exciting life. And it is an exciting life, and I just hope that you guys will also be able to do something similar, because obviously you have a passion for art and you have a passion for painting and basically putting your vision down on your canvases, and that is just so totally exciting. That's just great. Basically what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be looking at watercolor, and one of the essential things that you need to master when you're painting watercolors. There are a couple of things. This one in particular, we're going to be looking at flat washes. So if you can master flat washes, you'll be able to do a lot of things with watercolor. We'll also be looking at graded washes and mingled washes in some other videos, but today I'm just going to be looking at a flat wash, and without further ado, let's just go and have a look at how we do that, and so that you can, rather than listen to me, you can actually get out there and start painting on your surface, just doing some flat washes. Alright, let's go and see how we do those flat washes. Good morning. So we're here in my studio, and what we're going to be looking at today is washes. So we're going to look at the different types of washes that you can do in watercolor, and we're going to try and learn how to master them. There are a couple of ways you can actually paint these things. There's no one correct way, but there are a couple of different techniques, and that's what I want to impart to you in this lesson. So basically, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a flat wash. Now, as you can see here, I've got a lovely flat wash going on. This is painted with Ochre Pink by Daniel Smith. I don't tend to say, you know, go and buy these colors and all that sort of stuff, but if you are doing watercolor, Daniel Smith is one of the beautiful watercolor makers out there. Recommend you go and try them out. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to be painting a flat wash in Ochre Pink. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just draw a shape on our piece of paper. I'm just using the back of an old painting that didn't work out. You can use good paper, usually is a good thing. Use a paper that you actually are going to be painting on, because each paper is different. The other day I bought some really crappy paper from one of those little cheap shops, and it is not that great. The feel of it is just totally different. And so if you're going to want to learn how to paint watercolor, try and paint your experiments on scrap pieces of paper that is similar, if not the same, as the one that you're going to do your final painting on. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to grab some water, and we're going to actually create a pool of pigment. So using my water, I'm going to actually just load my brush up and add this to my little well here. I want to add not enough, I want to add more than I need to cover that space. The reason why I want to do that is because if I'm in the middle of a wash and I'm painting and suddenly I run out of my wash, I'm going to have to go back and reload and recreate that try and get the same tone. Now that's quite a bit of a difficulty. The more the practice you get, the better you get at it, but it's still quite difficult. So you kind of want to create as much of a big pool of water that you can. Once you've done that, get into your paint and add it into that water. And continue to do that until you get the lovely tone that you want. I'm going to try and get a really deep tone. That one's quite light, but I'm going to try and get a deeper tone just for the sake of this video, so you can see what different tones you can get. Another thing, just while I'm doing this, I just want to mention, like, I know that I've had students, I mean, I paint oils as well, and I'll go into a class and I'm teaching my students, and the thing that I find that they're really, what they do is they lay out their palette differently every single time. Now for me, I lay out my palette the same way every single time, because when I'm in the midst of painting, I want to know where I want to go. So I'm painting and I'm like, you know, everything's going on, and suddenly I go, oh, I need a red or whatever. I will know exactly where to go. I'll know where my cadmium red is where my, you know, as opposed to where my alizarin crimson is, because it's in the same place every single time. So you can kind of see that I'm creating this lovely mix. It moves around quite freely. It's quite sort of like milky tea kind of consistency. The more pigment I put into it, the more the darker it will get. See, this opera is such a beautiful color, isn't it? Oh, I love it, just love it. All right. Now let's create a lovely, lovely flat wash with that. I think that's actually quite lovely. I'm using a nice little round brush. I think it's about a size 8, but the markings have gone off it, so I can't tell you exactly what it is anymore. All right, so when I'm creating a wash, I'm going to try and I'm going to get my brush. I'm not going to have it flat, like perpendicular to the surface. I'm going to have it slightly angled at my surface. Now my board is actually at an angle as well. The reason why I have it at an angle is because when you're painting with watercolor, the gravity of the gravity of the water and it running down the surface will pull that pigment down and create a lovely flat wash. If I have it lying flat like this, the water will move backwards and forwards in different directions, and you'll get these things called cauliflowers, which, you know, if that's what you want, that's amazing. You use those, they're great. Don't fear about the cauliflowers. So I'm going to put my paint down and drag my brush across. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create this lovely bead, because this is the bead is your friend. Because you want to pick up that bead and you want to drag again across that surface. Do the same thing again, pick up the bead and drag it across and lift off the brush. And you continue doing that until you get to the bottom of your shape. Pretty simple. As you can see, I'm continually going back into my well to pick up more pigment and coming down. And that is a very, very simple way. I'm going to just grab that, just pull some of that. Now, I've got this bead at the bottom. Now, if I leave that like that, I'm going to get the dark space down, a darker tone down there, because it's going to dry darker. So what I want to do is I want to grab I want to clean this brush off and then dry it off on my towel, and then I'm going to pick up that bead. And this brush at this point is called a thirsty brush. You want to pick up that bead because it will make these little dark spots will dry darker than the rest of it if I leave them there like that. And that is one way you can create a flat wash. The other thing you can do is then you can go, right, I've mastered that beautiful flat wash. I've done it on it could be on my whole entire surface. The next thing you can do is like create a random shape, just really bizarre, because this is going to give you an understanding of how to play with that bead, how to make sure you're using that bead all the time and dragging that pigment down through that shape. So let's do a flat wash within this groovy little shape. Again, I'm doing exactly the same stuff that I've done before, picking up more pigment, dragging it across. That bead is your friend. So great, isn't it? Now, why am I doing this? Why am I creating it in a weird shape? Well, because what happens if I have a tree shape? You know, I'm going to have random shapes with my thing. I'm not always going to want to have a flat wash just in a square like that or across the surface of my painting. I'm going to have organic shapes, trees, whatever. If I can master a beautiful flat wash in quite an organic, interesting shape, bead go across. Again, wash your brush off, dry it off, and pick up those beads. See how the thirsty brush just by caressing it across that bead just picks it up, finishes it off for you. And there are your two flat washes, one in a normal shape and one in a more organic shape. So I recommend going off and trying that. But before we do that, actually, I've got one more thing. Another way to do a flat wash. This is not the only way to do a flat wash. You can do another way of doing a flat wash is by actually grabbing your paint. I'm going to try and move my palette just away. I don't know if you can still see that. Great, you still can. And you put your paint down, put it down randomly, and then you move it together within that shape, within the shape that you want. So, just put your, randomize your brush strokes, and now you've got this, you've got enough pigment. Get enough pigment on the surface, and now what you can do is you can move the pigment around a lot faster, obviously, than doing it that way. But because I have my surface at a nice 45-degree angle, I can now move that into that shape again, get my thirsty brush and pick it up. Much faster, yeah? But it's good to know how to do both of them. So these are the different ways that you can do flat washes. They're not always just do it this way and that's the only way. You can, as I've just shown, you can do that a number of ways. So what I'm going to say to you now is off you go and try and do a flat wash in a normal shape, organic shape. And then, if you're feeling like you understand the bead, you understand how to move it around, try this way where you're just putting down that paint, just, randomly putting it down. Because this is how you can paint when you're just like, grabbing things and then blending it all together to create that beautiful flat wash. I mean, look at that. Look at how oh my gosh, it's just so exciting. I just love watercolor. It's a medium that just, my heart just goes pitter-patter every time I get to it and paint with it. So there you go. All right, so off you go. I really hope that video on the flat washes really was helpful for you, and you're getting to understand a little bit more about how you can master watercolor. Now, mastering watercolor is just something that you can do, you sort of tend to do over time. It can throw you some curveballs, but hey, that is the great thing about it. So let's move on, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video where we're going to be looking at graded washes. See you next time.